Welcome back, lady and gentle cats. In case you've missed my previous videos, I'm SciFi Cat, your master of disastrously good reviews and analysis for sci-fi and fantasy and everything in between. Today we're eyeballing something a little more in between, the penguin. But first, in case you were worried during this impending cold and flu season, yes, I have been taking my kitty vitamins. No, they're not really vitamins, and yes, they're legal recreationally in most states. Now, back to the topic on hand. Bundle up and have your piece handy because we're headed to Gotham. No, not the Chicago Gotham of the Chris Nolan trilogy, where once you see it, you can't unsee the bridges over the Chicago River. This time we're back in proper New York Gotham, with boroughs and accents that belong to those boroughs. A city with an elite and rough around the edges. And maybe a splash of New Orleans. For this epic of a miniseries, I thought I would take a closer look at the two protagonists, Oswald Oz Cobb, or the Penguin.
What you call me?
And Sofia Falcone.
I am a gigante.
Whichever, lady. I'm putting these two highly psychologically developed characters head to head in an attempt to see, well, who was more batty? Pun intended. To assist me in my examination, I've invited my good friend and occasional canine foil, Willie, to lend a paw.
Let's have some fun, Gato. Locked and loaded.
Now, the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual 5 text revision, also known as the DSM-5-TR, contains oodles about what constitutes a diagnosis of a psychopath or sociopath, depending on axes of diagnosis and various subcategories to boot. However, that manual is for diagnosing real human beings, and Oz and Sofia, dynamic as they are, remain fictional characters. So we are going to work on a non-clinical layman's version of what strikes an audience as a character being off the hook. What are some such characteristics? Willie, if you please.
Disassociation with the real world, unmotivated or excessive aggression, lack of remorse, abhorrent deviation from societal norms, just to name a few. I think I nailed the broad strokes, but if I missed any key red flags, please feel free to add them in the comments.
Now that we have a basic outline, let's see how Sofia Falcone lines up. Ladies first, of course.
Am I crazy?
According to Batman lore, those in the traditional Batman's rogues gallery tend to snap when they have that one bad day. As we see in flashbacks, Sofia played the cartel game along with her father.
And cards close to the vest. She kept tabs on the players and the moves, but whatever her personal strategy, it was never explicitly revealed. Maybe she was always gunning for the top job. Or maybe she just liked to be on top of things in general.
However, she always kept her hands clean. That's what deputies are for, after all, doing the dirty work that she cannot. So what was her bad day? Getting locked away in Arkham for a false accusation was pretty horrendous, but I argue it wasn't then. No, I think it was this bad day.
Out of me.
Don't be silly, I'm your friend! Makes me an Aquarius.
Until this point, Sofia had endured torture and gaslighting, but it was the betrayal of her one ally, who turned out to be a stool pigeon, that pushed her over the edge. Then, like a light switching on, we have the mass gassing of her immediate family, except Johnny Vitti, because she needs the money, man.
Yet, in Sofia's mind, this is all a just execution. Each one testified, perjured themselves to her being the hangman serial killer, when everyone in the family knew it was actually her father, Carmine. She held a mental drumhead trial and found them guiltier than sin and worthy of being put down, Old Yeller style. Ugh, sorry. That one hits a little close to home. Of course, the key words are in Sofia's mind. The facts are undisputed. They lied at Carmine's behest or coercion to get her into Arkham. But to jump to such a final conclusion regarding their earthly existence exhibits more than a smidge of loss of touch with reality. She comes from a crime family. Of course they're going to obey the Don. You know, The whole Luca Brasi, Don Corleone, I'm honored and grateful that you've invited me to your daughter's wedding, yada yada, etc., etc. She should understand that aspect of her reality. Instead, she breaks with it and snuffs the family.
Then Sofia starts getting her hands dirty outside of Arkham. Really dirty. She dispenses with Johnny Vitti gangster style as soon as he resists the family name change to Gigante, without blinking an eye or shedding a tear, while flunkies grasp at the cash covered in his cooling blood. The body count has gotten pretty high, and Sofia has still shown no regret or guilt for her actions. In fact, she persists in feeling legitimized in her actions, even vindicated on behalf of her murdered mother. The reality gap grows wider. Next, we have to address the sadism, a less than typical societal practice, and hope it doesn't get me canceled. Sofia directs it at her lover, for obvious reasons, who once was her psychiatrist in Arkham, Dr. Julian Rush. More importantly, she concentrates her dopamine violence fix on Oz, because in her point of view, Oz snitched on her talking to reporters that ended up with her in Arkham and him higher on the pecking order.
I find this exact chain reaction disputable, at least on the surface. Yes, 2 + 2 = 4, but if you watch Oz and the way he talks about Sofia and the reporter's actions, he speaks defensively of her.
But I was just doing my job, looking out for you. That's what your father pays me for.
Almost like it's something to be excused, but he feels obligated to report to the boss for the same reason I mentioned earlier. He was never going to replace Sofia by snitching on her. He had no idea of any possible consequences to her or reward. But Oz, well, you'll see when we get to Oz. All the same, I'm not entirely convinced he was trying to rat her out for personal gain. The scene feels more like him being a good foot soldier than anything. Again though, it doesn't matter what I think. Sofia is convinced this is what happened.
Even worse in Sofia's eyes, Oz is responsible for the death of her savior in that hell pit of Arkham, her brother, Alberto. In trying to extract info about her brother, she straight up tortures a naked Oz for information with techniques no doubt learned at Arkham. However, after her epiphany that she wants Oz to feel the true pain she has experienced, she hits him where it really hurts. The truth about his brother's demise and his mother. In a dark tango at the nightclub where his mother almost had him offed as a child by the local mob boss. She also likes to burn things in dramatic fashion.
What well-executed cinematography. The thrill and release she gets from her pyro moment is palpable.
Of course, this analysis wouldn't be complete if I didn't mention a little nature versus nurture here. Undoubtedly, Sofia was raised around violence, and Arkham may have acted as an accelerant. But Carmine did get his jolly strangling women. Could a subdued, sadistic streak have been in her all along, just waiting for the right stimulus to come roaring out?
I'm inclined towards nurture here. Sofia was a dove compared to the mobsters surrounding her growing up. And the Arkham flashback clearly shows a progression of her taste for violence. But yeah, let's have the audience have their say on this one in the comments.
Now, on to Oswald Oz Cobb. His bad day? Minus his setbacks along the way, I would say Oz had 3. First, when he impulsively shot Alberto Falcone, the next Don, that set this story moving. Second was when the Falcones took away his drops operation. That's when Oz broke rank, went rogue, and began scheming to take the whole of Gotham for himself, playing the Maronis and Falcones off one another, using Alberto as the first salvo. Day 3, easily, was the worst because that's when he lost his mother, not to death, but to a persistent vegetative state following a massive stroke.
No longer could she give him the tough love and ego boost he had relied on his whole life to keep him 2 steps ahead of the other crime syndicates.
Like a little pussy boy? You're my big, strong bull of a boy. You never forget that.
Oz has impulsive violence issues linked to anger. I mean, that's what started it all, and I mean it all, back when he was a youngin'. And his anger usually stems from being disrespected. A bit of a narcissistic streak. He's a compulsive liar, always tap dancing between his fabrications. Nothing sticks to the Penguin's back.
You gotta look clean.
As a fucking whistle.
I'd argue this is both in touch and out of touch with reality, in that he has to know enough about reality to keep his yarns untangled, but he's creating a fictional world made of layers of webs of lies that he feeds to others. A complex case. With regards to violence, most of the time he sees it as a means to an end. When he immolated Nadia and Taj Maroney, it was a message, not a sadistic pleasure. He may have played it up to provoke a fight with Mr. Krabs over here.
Okay, shoot me, but don't take me money.
But that's how Penguin operates. Always looking for an opportunity to get out of a scrum, and always looking for a new angle.
He is a relentless opportunist.
Again, nature versus nurture must be given attention. Oz started on his path young, but, as I mentioned before, he acts on angry impulses. Locking his brothers in the drainage pipe was not premeditated. But as time went on, you could see on young Oz's face, him calculating the benefits of their permanent removal. Now, was that his nature? Or something he brought together in his own mind from watching his mother struggle, and maybe some jealousy at his brother's physical ability? But the rest, as we found out from a flashback with good old Sexy Rexy, was all nurture on his mom's part.
You can use that. Foster what he's got. Embrace it. Raise it.
I can tell you this much, Gato. Freud would have a field day with Oswald Cobb on that couch, because he has at least an emotional form of an Oedipus complex. But instead of his father being the way, it's his brothers.
What's with the Penguin's cigar, then?
I think you can appreciate, Gato. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Getting back on track. See, the crazy thing is, regardless of all that, I was still rooting for Oz to take Gotham. Hell, I was rooting for Sofia as well, to get free of the cartel. These characters, despite their twisted psychology, still had sympathetic goals. Sofia wanted to escape her father's legacy. Oz wanted respect, love of his neighborhood, love of his mother. So can we cheer on protagonists that are more than a little unhinged? The best answer I can give is these psychologically layered characters might be pathological, but they're not monsters. Using the word monster dehumanizes a character, and these characters are still very much human. Take Oz sobbing at his mother's bedside.
Ma, tell me you're proud of me, please! Come on, just once, just tell me you're proud of me. Tell me I did good. That's what you wanted. Ma, please, just once. Just once.
Wondering if she would ever forgive him for, you know what you did, Oz.
You think she forgives me?
Or Sofia having a crisis of conscience after visiting Gia, realizing she's just replaying her father's game. They have a morality, a code, that's just not in line with common morality. It's warped, but still there.
You know, Gato, whether it is in works of fiction or even works of history, when portraying those who have done the worst things imaginable, they are always far more terrifying when painting them with the purely human brush, making them relatable in regards to the nature of their motives, but not the extent, means, or the consequences of them.
An important corollary to that statement, Willie, is depending on the circumstances, using that same human brush can make them all the more sympathetic, if we're truly being honest with ourselves.
But it does raise an important classic question. Are monsters born, or are they made?
In these two cases, neither. I don't think either are monsters, except for that last scene, but we'll circle round to that.
This is where we differ, my feline friend. When examining the two, Oz seems much closer to the former, that is born a monster, than the latter.
Please explain.
As we see in the flashbacks, Oz seems to have an inherent inborn element for monstrous behavior, defined as clear self-obsession and non-premeditated violence. He is an opportunist in the extreme. Additionally, he is very inclined to serve his own interests, largely above all others, yet not exclusively. In this case, he clearly wanted his mother all to himself.
But Oswald didn't want that, no. This is what he wanted, me, all to himself.
And he clearly had little consideration for the means he used to achieve it.
A lot of that, sans the violence, sounds pretty typical in today's dog-eat-dog world. No offense.
None taken?
And who doesn't love their mother?
Yes, but this goes far beyond a healthy maternal relationship. This borders on fixation, particularly for her approval. Most interesting here is even though Frances confesses that she has the devil in her home, she makes an important choice. That choice is to actively mold this child into the monster we now know as Penguin. So while there is a considerable nature component, I argue nurture also played an enormous role. Penguin could not have become the monster we know without her active and silent consent. But let's be clear, we could always see the potential that was there.
I counter that Oz is not yet a monster. I swear we'll get to that final scene. I agree he had some negative tendencies as a child, and absolutely his mother molded him to be the street-smart, street genius he is. But monsters don't express remorse in their candid moments. Monsters don't sob when they lose their great pillar of support. Monsters are monsters because they are other. They've broken the social contract completely, and don't have such qualities as regret and despair.
I'm not even gonna swat that fly. I hope they are watching. They'll see. They'll see and they'll know and they'll say, why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
Things that make us human.
Fair enough, but for my money, based on what we have seen, Oswald Cobb is getting damn close and becoming more sinister than the Oswald Cobb we meet in episode 1, or even originally in The Batman. But immense credit to the writers within the sentiment I expressed earlier about demonstrating their humanity, making them even scarier, making it, at the very least, ambiguous whether Oz falls into the monster category or not.
Which is the perfect segue to that final scene. The Penguin, because Oz is now truly that persona and not the blue-collar kid from the East Side, starts towing the monster line even for me. At this point, Penguin bestowed upon his mom everything he promised, the penthouse with the skyline view, etc. Except what she really wanted, to die if her mind goes before her body does. Now he has her all to himself and can project onto her whatever he wants to believe she is feeling, despite the tear of despair she musters to shed. Worse, he has Eve, dressed in his mother's finest gown, acting as a pseudo-mother, and reinforcing all the praise Mother would have normally showered on him, in theory, had she been cognizant to observe his success.
I did it, Mom. The name. Tell me I did it.
You did it.
But after their tete-a-tete at Monroe's, that's not necessarily clear.
You're a disappointment. You're a waste of space. I wake up every goddamn day sick that I'm your mother.
He has all of Gotham's underworld, he has political influence, his, penguin suit, and now he's one of the elites he trashed to get where he is. Reality, Houston to reality. I think we lost connection. He's wrapped himself in his own web of lies, at least in the privacy of that penthouse, Where Penguin goes from here will unfold in future installments of the Batman films and a potential second miniseries. Only then will we see if Penguin falls off the tipping point. That's all for today, folks. Big thanks to Willie for joining me this video. I hear there's a feline-friendly Gotham inhabitant named Selena Kyle. Should I look her up? Willie, what's that?
I've got some things to do. Adios.
That crazy mutt. So who do you think was more out of their mind? Are monsters people too? Should they have separate bathrooms? Shout out at me in the comments, and while you're there, hammer down the subscribe button if you like what I'm meowing about, and ding the ding dong to receive updates about new videos.